Surprising ways your brain makes decisions. Every single day, your brain makes thousands of decisions, most of them without you ever realizing it. From choosing what to wear in the morning to deciding whether you trust someone you just met, your brain is constantly working behind the scenes. What's surprising is that many of these decisions are not logical, rational, or even conscious. Instead, they are shaped by shortcuts, emotions, memories, and hidden biases that quietly influence your behavior. You might believe you are in full control, but science tells a very different story. One of the most surprising facts about decision-making is that your brain often decides before you think it does. Research in neuroscience shows that the brain begins preparing a decision several seconds before you become consciously aware of it. This means that what you experience as a choice is often your brain explaining a decision it has already made. Conscious thought, in many cases, acts more like a storyteller than a decision-maker, creating reasons after the fact to justify actions already set in motion. Your brain also relies heavily on mental shortcuts, known as heuristics. These shortcuts help you make quick decisions without overloading your mental capacity. While they are efficient, they are far from perfect. For example, your brain tends to prefer familiar options over better ones. This is why people often stick with the same brand, routine, or belief even when better alternatives exist. Familiarity feels safe, and your brain is wired to prioritize safety over accuracy. Another shocking way your brain makes decisions is through emotional dominance. Contrary to popular belief, emotions are not the enemy of logic. They are often in control of it. When emotions are strong, they can override rational thinking entirely. Fear pushes you toward caution, excitement drives impulsive choices, and anxiety convinces you to avoid risks that may actually benefit you. Even decisions that seem purely logical, such as financial planning or career choices, are deeply influenced by emotional states you may not notice. Your brain is also incredibly influenced by how options are presented. The same choice can feel completely different depending on wording, framing, or context. For instance, people respond more positively to a product described as 90% effective than one described as 10% ineffective, even though both statements mean the same thing. This framing effect reveals that your brain does not evaluate information objectively. It reacts to how that information makes you feel. Social influence plays another powerful role in your decisions. Your brain is wired to seek belonging and approval, which means it often follows the crowd, even when the crowd is wrong. This is why trends spread so quickly, why people adopt popular opinions, and why peer pressure can feel impossible to resist. Deep down, your brain equates social acceptance with survival, so it nudges you toward decisions that maintain group harmony rather than personal truth. Memory also quietly shapes your choices in surprising ways. Your brain does not store memories like a video recording. Instead, it reconstructs them every time you recall them. This means your past experiences are constantly being edited by your current emotions and beliefs. Decisions based on memory are therefore influenced by how you remember something, not how it actually happened. A single negative memory can outweigh dozens of positive ones, leading to overly cautious or avoidant behavior. Another hidden force behind decision-making is mental fatigue. As your brain becomes tired, its ability to make thoughtful decisions declines. This is why people tend to make poorer choices late in the day, overeating, procrastinating, or acting impulsively. Even decisions that seem purely logical, such as financial planning or career choices, are deeply influenced by emotional states you may not notice. Your brain is also incredibly influenced by how options are presented. The same choice can feel completely different depending on wording, framing, or context. For instance, people respond more positively to a product described as 90% effective than one described as 10% ineffective, even though both statements mean the same thing. This framing effect reveals that your brain does not evaluate information objectively. It reacts to how that information makes you feel. Social influence plays another powerful role in your decisions. Your brain is wired to seek belonging and approval, which means it often follows the crowd, even when the crowd is wrong. This is why trends spread so quickly, why people adopt popular opinions, and why peer pressure can feel impossible to resist. Deep down, your brain equates social acceptance with survival, so it nudges you toward decisions that maintain group harmony rather than personal truth. Memory also quietly shapes your choices in surprising ways. Your brain does not store memories like a video recording. Instead, it reconstructs them every time you recall them. This means your past experiences are constantly being edited by your current emotions and beliefs. Decisions based on memory are therefore influenced by how you remember something, not how it actually happened. A single negative memory can outweigh dozens of positive ones, leading to overly cautious or avoidant behavior. Another hidden force behind decision-making is mental fatigue. As your brain becomes tired, its ability to make thoughtful decisions declines. This is why people tend to make poorer choices late in the day, overeating, procrastinating, or acting impulsively. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of decision-making is that your brain is constantly predicting the future. Every choice you make is based on what your brain expects will happen next. When reality matches the prediction, the brain feels rewarded. When it doesn't, discomfort arises. Over time, your brain adjusts future decisions to reduce prediction errors, not necessarily to improve accuracy, but to maintain internal comfort and stability. Understanding these hidden processes does not mean you lose control, it means you gain awareness. When you realize that your brain is influenced by emotions, shortcuts, fatigue, and social pressure, you can begin to pause, question, and reflect. Better decisions do not come from thinking harder, but from understanding how thinking actually works. In the end, your brain is not broken, it is efficient, adaptive, and deeply human. It evolved to help you survive, not to make perfect decisions. The real power comes when you stop assuming your mind is always right and start learning how it quietly shapes your choices. Once you understand that every decision becomes an opportunity not just to choose differently but to understand yourself more deeply. Have you ever looked back at a decision you made and thought, "Why did I do that?" You're not alone. And more importantly, you're not broken. Every day, your brain makes thousands of decisions, most of them automatically. What's surprising is that many of these choices happen before you even realize you're making them. The truth is, your brain doesn't always wait for logic. It acts first and explains later. In American culture, we value independence, rational thinking, and personal control. We like to believe our choices are deliberate and well thought out. UT Neuroscience paints a very different picture. Your brain is constantly using shortcuts, emotional signals, and past experiences to guide your behavior, often without your permission. Understanding this doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. One of the most shocking discoveries in psychology is that your brain often decides before you consciously think about the decision. Brain scans show that neural activity predicting a choice appears seconds before a person reports being aware of making that choice. In other words, your conscious mind is often the narrator, not the driver. It steps in after the decision has already begun, creating a story that feels logical and intentional. This explains why gut feelings are so powerful. When Americans say, "I just went with my instinct," they're describing a real neurological process. Your brain is rapidly analyzing patterns from past experiences and emotional memory. It feels sudden, but it's actually the result of years of internal data processing happening in milliseconds. Your brain also loves mental shortcuts, especially in a fast-paced, information-heavy society like the United States. These shortcuts help you survive a world of constant choices: what to buy, who to trust, what to believe. But they come with a cost. For example, your brain tends to favor what's familiar. That's why people often stick to the same brands, news sources, routines, and opinions, even when better options exist. This familiarity bias plays a huge role in consumer behavior, political opinions, and lifestyle choices. Your brain interprets familiarity as safety. In a country where change is constant, the brain clings to what feels stable, even if it limits growth. Another major factor shaping your decisions is emotion, especially stress and anxiety. Americans live in a high-pressure environment: deadlines, financial responsibility, social comparison, and constant digital exposure. Under stress, your brain shifts control from the rational center to the emotional one. That's when impulsive decisions happen. Emotional spending, snapping in relationships, procrastination, or avoidance. Even decisions that seem logical, like career moves or investments, are deeply emotional. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of regret quietly steer choices. Your brain isn't asking, "What's the best option?" It's asking, "What feels safest right now?" Your brain is also incredibly sensitive to how choices are framed. In the US, marketing, media, and politics rely heavily on this. A choice framed as avoiding loss feels more urgent than one framed as gaining something new. That's because your brain experiences loss more intensely than reward. Losing $100 hurts more than gaining $100 feels good. This is why people stay in jobs they dislike, relationships that no longer serve them, or habits they've outgrown. The brain fears loss, even familiar discomfort, more than it desires potential improvement. Social influence is another invisible force. Americans pride themselves on individuality, yet the brain is deeply wired for belonging. Likes, views, trends, and viral opinions subtly shape decisions every day. Your brain associates acceptance with safety and rejection with danger. That's why going against the crowd feels uncomfortable, even when you know you're right. Memory also plays tricks on decision-making. Your brain doesn't replay memories accurately. It reconstructs them. Each time you remember something, it changes slightly based on your current emotions and beliefs. This means many decisions are based on distorted memories, not facts. A single negative experience can outweigh multiple positive ones, leading to fear-based choices. As the day goes on, your brain experiences decision fatigue. After hours of choosing what to work on, what to say, what to ignore, your mental energy drops. Late in the day, your brain defaults to convenience, not wisdom. That's why self-control weakens at night and bad habits feel harder to resist. Perhaps the most fascinating thing is that your brain is always predicting the future. Every decision is a guess about what will happen next. When the prediction feels safe, the brain feels calm. When uncertainty appears, discomfort rises. Many people don't avoid change because it's bad. They avoid it because the brain hates unpredictable outcomes. The powerful takeaway is this: your brain is not designed to make perfect decisions. It's designed to keep you alive, accepted, and emotionally stable. Once you understand this, you can slow down, question automatic reactions, and choose more intentionally. Awareness doesn't remove bias, but it gives you space. Space to pause, space to reflect, space to choose differently. And that's where real freedom begins, not in controlling your brain, but in understanding how it quietly controls you. Here's something most people don't want to admit. Intelligence does not protect you from poor decisions. In fact, sometimes it makes things worse. Smart people are often better at explaining their choices, not necessarily making better ones. The brain is incredibly skilled at rationalizing mistakes after they happen. It builds convincing stories that protect your self-image, even when the decision itself was driven by fear, ego, or emotion. This is why people can stay stuck for years while fully believing they're being rational. The brain doesn't like being wrong. When a decision threatens your identity, your intelligence, your values, your self-respect, your brain activates defense mode. Instead of asking, "Is this working?" it asks, "How do I justify this?" Another hidden influence is ego protection. Your brain constantly tries to protect you from feeling inadequate, embarrassed, or exposed. When a decision might challenge your sense of competence, your brain subtly pushes you away from it. That's why people avoid starting new projects, learning new skills, or admitting mistakes. Growth requires vulnerability, and your brain interprets vulnerability as danger. Your brain also overvalues immediate rewards and undervalues long-term outcomes. This is why procrastination feels so tempting and discipline feels so hard. Short-term comfort activates powerful reward circuits in the brain, while long-term benefits feel abstract and distant. The brain evolved for survival, not delayed gratification. In a modern world full of instant pleasure, notifications, fast food, streaming content, this wiring is constantly exploited. Another surprising factor is choice overload. Americans are surrounded by endless options, career paths, dating apps, products, opinions. While choice is freedom, too much choice overwhelms the brain. When faced with too many options, the brain experiences stress and confusion, leading to decision paralysis or regret. Sometimes the brain chooses not choosing at all. Your environment also plays a massive role in your decisions. The brain is highly responsive to cues around you: lighting, sounds, social signals, even your phone's presence. Small environmental changes can dramatically shift behavior. That's why willpower alone often fails. The brain responds better to redesigned environments than self-control battles. One of the most misunderstood forces in decision-making is habit. Habits are decisions your brain has automated to save energy. Once a behavior becomes habitual, the brain resists changing it, even if it no longer serves you. Breaking a habit feels hard not because you lack discipline, but because your brain sees repetition as efficiency. The brain also tends to confuse confidence with truth. When someone speaks confidently or when you feel certain, your brain lowers its guard. This is why misinformation spreads so easily and why people cling to strong opinions with little evidence. Certainty feels comforting. Doubt feels dangerous. So the brain often chooses confidence over correctness. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of your decisions are not made by your best self. They are made by a tired, emotional, shortcut-driven version of your brain trying to get through the day. And that's okay. Awareness is not about perfection, it's about interruption. When you pause before reacting, when you question an emotional impulse, when you notice a familiar pattern, you create a small gap. In that gap, better decisions become possible. And in the final part, we'll talk about how to work with your brain instead of fighting it, and how small shifts in awareness can completely change the direction of your life. Most people think the solution to better decisions is more discipline, more motivation, or more willpower. But here's the truth. Fighting your brain rarely works. Your brain has been evolving for hundreds of thousands of years. You won't overpower it, but you can outsmart it. The first step is learning to slow the moment down. Your brain makes its worst decisions when it feels rushed, emotional, or threatened. Simply pausing, taking a breath, delaying a response, sleeping on a decision, gives the rational part of your brain time to catch up. This small delay can completely change outcomes, especially in emotional situations like arguments, spending, or major life choices. Another powerful strategy is changing the question your brain is answering. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing right now?" ask, "What will I wish I had done tomorrow?" This reframing shifts your brain's focus from short-term reward to long-term satisfaction. It doesn't remove emotion, but it redirects it. Your brain is also highly sensitive to defaults. It often chooses the option that requires the least effort. You can use this to your advantage by designing your environment so that good choices are easier than bad ones. When healthy options are visible, distractions are reduced, and systems are in place, your brain naturally follows the path of least resistance in your favor. Awareness of emotional triggers is another game changer. Every person has patterns, specific situations that lead to poor decisions. For some, it's stress. For others, it's boredom, loneliness, or fatigue. When you learn your triggers, you stop blaming yourself and start preparing for them. Preparation beats willpower every time. One of the most powerful tools is naming what's happening. When you say, "This is fear talking," or "This is decision fatigue," you activate higher-level thinking. Naming emotions creates distance. Distance creates control. This simple act helps you respond instead of react. Your brain also thrives on small wins. Big, dramatic changes overwhelm it. But tiny, consistent improvements build momentum. Each small success teaches your brain that change is safe. Over time, new behaviors become habits, and old habits lose their grip, not through force, but through repetition. Another underrated skill is accepting uncertainty. The brain hates not knowing outcomes, but growth lives in uncertainty. When you stop demanding guarantees and start tolerating discomfort, your decision-making expands. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing despite it. Perhaps the most important shift is moving from self-judgment to self-observation. When a decision goes wrong, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask, "What was my brain trying to protect me from?" This question turns mistakes into insight rather than shame. Because your brain isn't your enemy. It's a survival machine doing its best in a world it wasn't designed for. The moment you understand this, everything changes. You stop reacting automatically. You stop repeating the same patterns. You start choosing with awareness. And in the final moments, there's one truth that ties everything together. One insight that can completely reshape how you see your mind, your choices, and your future. At the end of the day, your brain is not broken, weak, or flawed, it's human. It was built to protect you, to keep you safe, and to help you survive uncertainty. But safety is not the same as growth. When you understand how your brain quietly influences your choices, you stop living on autopilot. You begin to notice the pause before a reaction, the emotion behind an impulse, and the story your mind tells to stay comfortable. And in that awareness, something powerful happens. You regain choice. Real change doesn't come from forcing better decisions. It comes from understanding the mind that makes them. Every time you slow down, question a habit, or choose awareness over instinct, you are reshaping your future one decision at a time. Your life is not defined by one big moment, but by the small choices you repeat every day. And when you learn how your brain truly works, those choices stop controlling you and start working for you. Your brain has been running your life quietly in the background, protecting you from pain, steering you toward comfort, and convincing you that familiar patterns are safe, even when they hold you back. But the moment you understand this, you break the cycle. You stop mistaking fear for truth and comfort for clarity. You begin to see that many of the limits in your life were never real. They were decisions made by a mind trying to keep you safe, not fulfilled. And here's the truth most people never realize. Freedom isn't about having unlimited choices. It's about making conscious ones. Every pause before a reaction, every moment of awareness, every time you choose growth over ease, you are teaching your brain a new way to live. Over time, those small moments reshape who you become. Not louder, not harder, just more aware. And that awareness, more than motivation, discipline, or talent, is what ultimately changes everything.